This evening is Sal Wong. He served in Delta 17 from September of 1968 to December of 1968. After returning home from Nam, Sal, like many of us, started finding other Marine brothers and corpsmen that he had served with. Several years ago, at a battalion reunion hosted by the Marine Association known as 17, Sal met a retired 1st Battalion 7th Marine Bravo Company Sergeant Major Robert Yancey, who served as a company gunny in Vietnam. Although the two of them served in different companies, Sal and Bob became real good friends over the years, and as many of us have done while serving with 1st Battalion 7th Marines. On August 10th of 2014, Sal's friend, Sergeant Major Robert Yancey, passed away. Tonight, Sal is here to share with us his tribute in escorting Sergeant Major Yancey to his final resting place. From the perception of those who are honored, the participation in one final gesture of respect for a brother Marine. So please join me in welcoming Sal.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you again, and I welcome the first-timers, and I hope you enjoy yourself so far.
Close to the microphone, Sal.
Okay, how's this? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay. Anyway, Sergeant Inaki, that's his name. A lot of people says he's actually Filipino, and in the Filipino they pronounce it Inaki. So I asked him, why do you call yourself Inaki? He says, well, I don't want to be different from everybody. I want everybody to think I'm just a regular old white boy. So, so that's why it's Inaki. So anyway, in last November, I had the honor of escorting him as a request from the family from California to Arlington. And I never done this before, and no one I know ever done it before either. So to prepare myself, I watched the movie Taking Chance. I don't know how many people have viewed that movie, but it's a very good HBO movie. So, and also I went online and I read the Army, the protocol on escorts. See, the reason the family asked me it's important to them for me to be in uniform is that Sergeant Major was, 30 years, very proud, and he knew that he wanted the whole 9 yards, at Arlington, and the family was thinking, he said, the only thing missing was the uniform escort. So they were going to maybe go down to the local recruiter and trying to get some help there. But since I met the family, because I've known the Sergeant Major since 2004, my first reunion. And of course, the reunion after that, I decided to wear a uniform to honor all of our service there. And even now, when I go to a funeral, if the deceased is a veteran, regardless of what branch of service, I would wear a uniform to attend it, and they're honored. And that's how it came to ask me. So anyway, on a Thursday, I reported to the airport in Ontario to take off from there, and then from there we'd probably end up in Oakland, pass it off, pick up new ones, from there to Midway in Chicago, and then finally the last leg to Virginia and the Arlington area there. So when I first walked in the airport, I was watching that movie. I said, wonder how I'm going to react. So as soon as I walked in the airport, eyes was on me, and I was kind of nervous, because I guess people don't see military personnel in uniform. If they do, it's usually an Army there in their utilities. So here I am in my greens, and as I walked toward the desk there, they all knew there, so they were real kind to me. and they said, we're expecting you. So they checked me in quickly and directed me upstairs to the screening area before we go to the gate. So when I walked up, there was a whole line there, people waiting to get in their flights. The TSA agent right there saw me, so he came right to me, took me out of line, pulled me out of line, went right straight to the scanning area. I explained to him why I was there. He said, well, you know, I said, so I cannot remove my blouse. So he said, no problem. Just walk through the scanner. If it buzzes, I'll hand one you. Which it didn't, so walked through and very nicely. And I went toward the gate where the boarding attendant was. They saw me go down, so also they said, oh, they welcomed me. And they said, we're expecting you. The flight is not in yet because they come from Oakland down here and then going back to Oakland. He said, have a seat. Someone from the cargo department will come up and guide you down to the tarmac to load your friend. And they conveyed their condolences and wanted me to tell the family that they feel the pain. And they thanked me for my service. So finally the plane arrived. The cargo supervisor came up, introduced himself, and then the captain also came to me, and he escorted me down. I don't know if when you fly, you go through that little tunnel. Just before you get to the plane, there's a door right there, and that door leads the stairs down to the tarmac, and that's how they direct me down there. So the cargo supervisor got on his little walkie-talkie and said, they're coming now. They're trying to find the cleanest cart they can, and needest one to transport your friend from the cargo section to the plane here. So they finally showed up. So they pulled up, they loaded the Sergeant Major casket onto the ramp. I checked and verified, made sure it was indeed him. So then I stood on one side of the ramp and the captain stood next to me. The people handling the cargo and some of the baggage handler and ground crew in the area, they came over and they stood on the other side of the ramp. So as the ramp started moving up, of course I rendered a slow salute. The captain and everybody had their headgears off, hands on their heart, and they slowly loaded. So they were very respectful. And when that was loaded, all the ground crew came to me and also want me to convey their condolence to the family for the loss. So now I went back upstairs and waited for the plane to be loaded. Now before I came here, I know that people is going to ask me some question about these things. A lot of people know and some people don't know what's going on. So instead of repeating it to everybody, I was going to have a little print out made so I could just hand them so they can read it. Now I didn't want to do it just a regular obituary because, you know, unless you really know the person, it means nothing. But the Sergeant Major, when he was a gunny, he earned the Silver Star. So I decided to print the Silver Star citation, put his picture on the top, you know, the date when he was born and when he died. So that's what the captain asked me, so I handed him the printout. So when we got to the door, everything, the stewardess, the flight attendant greeted me, and also they knew what's going on. And she said, you know, we would upgrade you to first class, but this is a 737, you know, it was Southwest, it's a small plane. So what they did was they put me on the first 3 seat up front for comfort and privacy. So now, if you've seen the movie Taking Chance, Lieutenant Colonel Strobe was given also the first class, but only the people in first class really see him in an airplane. Where I was sitting, when people come in, I was the first one they saw. So some people know what's going on and some don't. So as they enter, some would, you know, thank me for my service. Some would say, hey, I served in the Marines too, and give their year. and some people didn't know, so they just moved on. So we knew the plane is filled now, and then before he took off, the captain made the announcement that there is an escort on board, and we're transporting a deceased Marine, and they asked for a moment of silence. So he explained, who he was. So we took off. The flight from Ontario to Oakland only about an hour or so. But in between the time, people made it a point to come up and pat me on the shoulder or just say condolence to the family. Right? So we landed. Now, most of the people disembarked at the airline because they're going to other connecting flights. Only 12 people or so stayed to go on to Midway. So now there's new people coming boarding the airline. And the same thing, I get to look, and they look and some people know, some don't, and some know that I'm Marine, they would say "Semper or give me that polite nod of thank you. So the flight from there was a little longer stretch. So the captain also made the announcement, of who was on board. So on the flight there, it took almost, I think it was over 6 hours on that flight right there. So almost every passenger on there made a point to come up there during that flight just to say a word of condolence and thank me for my service. I mean, it was unbelievable how they treated us. So when I landed in Chicago, there was an hour and 15-minute layover. So some people stay on there and you can go stretch your leg, or you can go get something to eat. And then some people left that flight, go to the other connector. So I decided I was getting hungry, so I go and get something to eat. As I walk out the tunnel, that little ramp to the terminal, there was a lady standing there named Roseanne. She looked at me and said, "Are you Sergeant Wong, the escort?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." He said, "I'm from the USO. I'm here to take you for a meal at the USO facility." So I said, "Whoa, that's nice." So we walked down to the facility, and she made homemade soup and we had sandwiches, which was very good. It was cold that November, and that just hit the spot just right. So I asked her, "How do you know I was coming?" She said, "Oh," she looked at the email and said, "The cargo department, Southwest in Ontario where you took off, emailed me, said you were coming, so we made a point to have your meal." So that was very nice of them, so I had a nice meal. I went back to the airline. The captain and the crew was there, and they said, "Where'd you go?" I said, "Well, the USO took me to lunch. We were going to take you to lunch." It was so nice of these people, right? So I thanked them anyways. So again, now everybody's waiting, and then there's some new people, and they see me, and of course, when they're ready to take off, I'm the first one on the flight. It's like red carpet treatment. I almost think about wearing my uniform every time I travel. Right? So we sat on there. Now this leg is only about an hour and a half, 2 hours, so we're a little shorter than the other one. But somehow this time the captain didn't say anything. Maybe, I don't know the reason, but as we flew down there, about half of we land, the captain got on the intercom and says, "I have not informed you that when you came to the airline, there is a military personnel up front, and he is an escort for a deceased Marine. So when we land in Arlington, we ask you to remain seated until the escort can take care of the Marine." So then when he finished that, he thanked the passenger, and then the flight attendant got on. Her name was Kathy. So she got on the mic and told the passenger that the escort's name is Sergeant Wong, and the Marine is Sergeant Major Robert Sebastian Inaki. And he said, Sergeant Holm has flown us all the way from California all day long to take his brother in arm to find a resting place in Arlington. So he said, we wanted to play this song to honor them and for all the servicemen. So she put on the song, God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. I tell you, I was pretty stoic through the whole occasion. When that song played, I was fighting not to lose it. When the song finished, the plane was quiet. You could hear a pin drop for a moment there. Then all of a sudden, they explode into applause. Everybody just clapping. So when we finally made the approach to land, we landed in true to form. If you people flown, you know how people are, plane never stop, people grab them for luggage and carry on. Everybody stayed still. I mean, no one moved till we stopped. So I got up, and they started applauding again. So I said, I got to say something. So I just turned around toward the passenger and with the loudest voice I can, I thanked them all for their decency and their respect. And I said, this Thanksgiving, I will be thankful that I live in a country with so many great people I met along the way. So I wish them all a safe trip to the destination. And so I went down to the tarmac, and the captain accompanied me down there. And now it started to rain down there. So the captain said, you want an umbrella? I said, no, Captain. I'm in uniform. He said, yeah, you probably spent the worst time this before. So I said, yes, sir. So when we got down there, and the crew was down there, and they knew what was going on, so they prepared to unload the sergeant major. And all the baggage handler was there, and they stopped what they were doing. They all came in within 6 of them, all the ground crews that control the plane's movement, everything, they're all there. And they, same almost as repeat when we took off from Ontario. The captain was standing next to me, and the other people standing on the other side of the ramp. And now we're in the rain. And as the sergeant major slowly come down the ramp, again, I render honor with the slow salute, and everybody in the rain, they removed their hard hat, their rain gear on top of their head, and very patiently, as the sergeant major came down the ramp. So now they loaded it, and then the mortuary already made arrangement to pick him up from the cargo department. So they said, you don't have to go there because of security reason, we don't want too many people traveling the area. So that's fine. So I've done my job, and they'll take care, and they will notify me as soon as that he has received the sergeant major's body. So now I went back up to the plane to thank the crew for their hospitality there, and then I had to go to the baggage claim to get my luggage. So I'm walking to the baggage claim, and I'm getting there. Everybody's still there from the plane. So I'm saying, what are we doing? And I thought, that's right. When we're unloading Sergeant Major, all the baggage stopped working to render the honor. So that's why it was delayed. But as I walked closer, the people that were on the plane in the back that didn't get to talk to me, or they see me, so they come up. And I got handshakes, and a lot of people say things, and everybody always wants to convey the condolence to the family. But there's 3 incidents that sticks in my mind. And one was this pretty little college girl walked up to me almost in tears and says, can I give you a hug? Because in one of our classes we talked about the Vietnam veteran, and I feel so bad how poorly you guys were treated coming back from the war. So she gave me a nice little hug, and and it was pretty emotional. Because you figure the older people like us will understand, but these are just like college, 19, 20 maybe. But they hear about, I guess they teach people about it now. So the next one was a lady with a 15-year-old daughter. She came to me and said, look, this is my daughter. She had got a show and tell to do in Simon School coming up. And on this flight, she had decided she was going to do it on the veteran. Would like to have a picture with you. And she said she never met a hero before. Well, I said, ma'am, I'm not a hero. The Marine I'm escorting, he's the true hero. So she says, no, Sergeant, I'm an Air Force brat. I don't know all the ribbon you wear, what it they stand for, but I know you didn't get that purple one for sitting on your hands. So that was pretty nice of her to say that. And I know most of us don't want to be considered heroes, and we just want to do a job, right? So they gave me a hug, and then they took off. And then one older lady, when I'm saying older, I figure she's about 72 maybe. She says, he said, Sergeant, I never seen it before. I heard about it, but I never seen it. I don't know if you know or not, but when we got on a plane, some of us stayed behind the terminal and watch you go down. And I was one of them. He said, I was never so proud to be an American when I saw you down there. And the plane, the crew from the airline, giving honor in the pouring rain. He said, I'm thinking, if you do that for a deceased friend, you would probably have done, you wouldn't do anything for them when they're alive. You'd probably do anything in the world for them when you guys were alive to each other. And I said, yes, ma'am, we would have. So she says, now I know the true meaning of your motto, Semper Fidelis. I mean, it was really nice. So by the time the other people talked to, like I said, and everybody finally, the luggage came, everybody got their stuff, and I sort of stayed behind and said goodbye to everybody and thanked them for their decency and their respect and honoring. So now I'm drained, mentally and physically, all day. This is a small airport there, so it was like 9 o'clock or so. It's pretty much deserted. To go outside, and everybody took off, and I headed toward one of the benches in the dark area, and I sat down to reflect the journey today. As I sat down, tears of emotion just pour out of me. And I'm thinking, I said, 40-some years ago, when the Sergeant Major and I came home to an ungrateful nation, they wouldn't give us time of day. They blamed us for a war we didn't start, atrocities we didn't commit, nor do we have any say-so of how that war was managed. And most of us weren't even old enough to vote at that time, which was 21. The people who would control our destiny. We just really did the dying. I mean, but then this day right here, sort of, in a way, I guess, made up for it. Because this was America we thought so many years ago that we went off to fight and that was to die for. So I will remember this journey for a long time. And I just want to let you know, I wish you all could have been there with me to feel, I guess you say this is the silent majority of America that they really think about us. And that was my trip to Arlington. Right after I finished here, we have Arlington took a video of the ceremony for the Sergeant Major. Now, it didn't show everything. The Sergeant Major also had a flyover because he was part of the Air Wing. So he got the full 9 yards, as you see in this film right here. So, thank you. Super fun.
769.70. I want to say real quick, I'm real proud of my I'm proud of my son because he was on the burial detail at 8th and 9th in Arlington. But the reason I came up here to tell you, it's a small world. He ended up going to Iraq in 2004. He fought Ramadi and Fallujah. He was with 1st Marine Division. But, you know, I wanted to get up here and say one thing, how things closed together. In 1969 and 1970, our commanding general for 7th Marines, and I can't remember his name, my son did his funeral at Arlington. And it was 10 below zero, and my son told me it was so cold, the honor guard was puking. But they did what they were supposed to do. So, out of honor for the Marine Corps and my son and all of us and the 7th Marines, I just want to bring that up. Thank you.
Next, like Pat, if you could come up and read the citation recommendation, if you could.
Most of you know the secretary of Delta 17 Marines. She's the pretty blonde over there. My wife, Keena. I work with her monthly with the rest of your board. She is our secretary. I have the honor of being the roster keeper currently. Several guys went ahead of me, Tim included. I wish my friend, well, first of all, let me say, Keena once told George Snyder and myself we were 2 peas of a pod. And if any of you have heard me run on and ramble, you'll know that George is kind of like that, because you know George too. I wish my friend George was here, because what I'm about to read to you would not be, the letter would not have been written if George Snyder and Tim Paget and Paul Birdie and Mike Bish and probably 5 or 6 others, maybe if there's somebody else that was there in 2003 that's in the room, I'd like to know and raise your hand. Doc Tudlow. There were 8 or 9 that put this group together in 2003. Anyway, I wish my brother George was here, because of him and because of you, I'm able to read this letter from Lieutenant James Newcomb, who was the weapons platoon commander in the end of 1969 and early 1970, until his friend John Palmer got shot in the arm the day that Clifford Haley died, and Jim took over 3rd Platoon. I wouldn't have known Jim Newcomb. I wouldn't have reached out and met Steve Stafford, who Jim wrote this letter for, if it hadn't been for George Snyder and Tim Paget and Ray Tudlow and Paul Birdie. What else can I say? Bear with me while I read this letter. One more thing. Steve, and you know him as jovial and joking, lived for many years afraid that he killed 3 farmers or 3 civilians. And you deal with living with that kind of a weight on your shoulders. Let me read the letter to you.
Go ahead. Pay attention to it.
This is from James P. Newcomb. He lives in Chicago, Illinois. And it's addressed to the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm writing to you on behalf of Stephen Stafford to recount for you an incident which occurred in August 1970 in the Republic of South Vietnam. I was a lieutenant of infantry in the United States Marine Corps. And during August 1970, Stephen Stafford was attached to my platoon as a machine gunner. We operated out of our battalion base located at Landing Zone Baldy, which was approximately 23 miles southwest of Da Nang, South Vietnam. Sometime during August 1970, the exact date is unknown, Lance Corporal Stafford was due to return to LZ Baldy for 10 days R&R. Those of you wives have heard your husbands talk about R&R, that's rest and relaxation. Each Marine was eligible for R&R after about 6 months in country. Lance Corporal Stafford left my platoon and returned to LZ Baldy, awaiting transportation to Da Nang for his R&R. When he returned to LZ Baldy, he was assigned an additional duty of manning a listening post, an LP. An LP is a position assigned at night outside the perimeter of the base. The perimeter itself is manned 24 hours a day, but the LP is sent out only at night. The purpose of the LP is to deter attempts to penetrate the perimeter during periods of limited visibility, such as night, in order to detect an enemy before he can get close enough to make a penetration of the perimeter in force. Permanent battalion base personnel man the perimeter security force as well as the LPs. Perimeter security was often supplemented, however, when there were personnel shortages or when seasoned infantry were available. This was often the case when field troops returned to the rear for R&R. Now I will relate to you what I learned from other members of my platoon and from what I heard from the company headquarters personnel when I returned to the rear area. This information was well known and commonly spoken about in the rear at LZ Baldy. The day Lance Corporal Stafford returned to LZ Baldy for his R&R, he was assigned to man an LP. I can just imagine, this is not in the letter, how happy Stafford was about that.
Yeah, those are fun.
He and 2 or 3 other Marines were assigned along with him to man their LP position outside the perimeter. Lance Corporal Stafford would have been the only combat veteran in the group. Being the senior man, he made assignments to the other Marines and explained their duties and responsibilities for this post. They each would have had to stand watch during a specific period of time during the night while the others slept or were alert but not on specific watch. It should be noted that while occupying this position, no person is authorized to be moving in the area being observed. All movement is considered to be hostile and to be engaged with deadly force. As mentioned, each man in the LP was assigned a period time for his watch. Lance Corporal Stafford took the middle watch from 0200 to 0400. At some time during this watch, Lance Corporal Stafford was surprised by a man approaching his position. Lance Corporal Stafford responded to this probe by opening fire with his M16, first firing several rounds on semi-automatic fire and then on full automatic. This awakened the others in the LP who were now alert to the probe of the perimeter. The standard operating procedure for the commander of the perimeter security would have been to contact the LP by radio and get a report. This would have put the entire perimeter security force on alert to the possibility of a sapper attack. A sapper attack is a limited objective attack by a few individuals with explosive charges. The next morning, the LP would have been given clearance to return through the security perimeter, and a patrol would have been sent out to determine what kind of attack had been mounted against LZ Baldy. The patrol discovered 3 bodies near the LP. I am unaware of whether they were North Vietnamese Army NVA or Viet Cong VC. Nevertheless, Lance Corporal Stafford had stopped an attempt to penetrate the security perimeter by enemy forces that could have done great damage or caused severe loss of life to the base personnel if they had been successful in their attempt. Lance Corporal Stafford's alertness, swift response, and quick decision not only saved the lives of his fellow Marines in the LP, but his actions prevented a successful attack on the base where many hundreds of his fellow Marines were vulnerable. It is my opinion that Lance Corporal Stafford should have received a meritorious citation for his actions. I can only believe this was overlooked because of his having left for R&R the next morning. Very truly yours, James P. Newcomb, Major, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. Now I can tell you I've seen the paperwork, and the VA is responding as of April 27, 2012, and that the process goes on. For those of you that know Bronze Stars and other citations that have been awarded after the fact, they take a long time. My friend Steve Stafford, and like I said, I wish my friend George Schneider were here to see this also. Semper Fi, buddy.
Because they wanted to do whatever they could to help us, their brother Marines. While thinking about this, we came to the conclusion that we needed to acknowledge Marines who have stepped up in very special ways for the proud Marines of Delta Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, now known as Delta 17 Vietnam Marines. Each and every Marine being honored tonight has distinguished himself in battle. The ultimate test for a Marine. So, starting this year, we're going to acknowledge these men and show them our appreciation by presenting them a bronze statue that is a symbol of our gratitude. We're simply calling it the Marine. Tonight, the first award goes back a ways, and I want to ask everybody, do you remember the call? The call that changed your lives. I do. It was George Snyder. Back in 2002, in an instant, all those years of trying to forget the war years just melted away. All because of one Marine who made it his mission to locate those he served with. I found it to be liberating that I could finally remember things, good and bad, without the fear of the pain that always came with it. Memories mostly of the love and respect that we had for one another because of George. Memories of fierce battles that we relive over and over again, trying to think of different outcomes. You know, the what ifs. For many of us, it became just another day's work at the office. But it was all okay because of one Marine, George Snyder. And all these new memories that we have made since finding one another because of one Marine, George Snyder. Now, don't take this wrong, but we all have what we call character flaws. George, on occasions, could drive you a little crazy. He passionately defended his points, and over the years, I finally understood why someone would be running around the parking lot of a VA parking facility chasing George with a knife. George is leaving the leadership of Delta 17 today, but not before he saw his dream fulfilled of uniting Marines in a cause to help one another, heal, to provide assistance to those who were filing claims with VA, and taking what he had found in plowing that road before us and navigating the VA system and using it to help educate others and to help too. So, it is my honor on behalf of the board to present to George Snyder, the Marine, for all that he's done for this organization. And accepting for George tonight is Art Gomez.
I don't have that many words, but ever since the reunion in San Antonio, I got a call from George Snyder, and he asked me who I was and where I was. And I told him all that. He says, "That's the one I want to talk to." And it was a pleasure to me that he personally asked me to accept this award for him. And, you don't know what kind of honor that is to a man like him, because he's helped me throughout the years with talking with him. And again, George, I will guard this and I will send it to you personally. Thank you.
The next award tonight goes to Ray Ntula. Doc arrived in Vietnam in July of 1967 and left in June of 1968. Doc Tutelo has been on our board since 2012, acting as our chaplain. Throughout the years, Doc has been a very key player in managing our fire fund and making sure that those Marines who have passed have it acknowledged in our publications and newsletters, and offering words of comfort to the family members on behalf of Delta 17. At every board meeting, Doc has opened and closed them with a prayer. We had hoped that by doing so, it would be an inspiration to those on the board to behave, to not belittle one another, to treat other members nicely, show our appreciation for the ideas that they may have had, and to be kind. As it turned out, it was a complete and utter failure. Now, I know that deep down Doc knew that from the get-go, it was going to be hopeless. The key being what he said early on, that some people are kind, some are polite, some are sweet-spirited, and then there are Marines. Over the years, Doc has taken the lead in designing our reunion memorial service, without a doubt the most moving event we have in carrying out the tradition of remembering those who sacrificed so much for all of us. So, Tonight it's my honor to present Doc Tudelo with the Marine for all that he's done for this organization.
Well,
Get some, Doc.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is to the real heroes, to everyone here in this room, to all the Marines, and especially the new guys. Welcome home.
In the early days of forming Delta 17, we had a vision. We had the energy. We had a drive to get it done. What we didn't have were the funds. We also knew that there would be other opportunities down the line to do other things that we could think of to help our brother Marines. Captain Franzia has been there, a constant donator in the supporting of our organization when it was sorely needed. Through his generosity, we have succeeded in building this dream beyond anything we had ever hoped for. Captain Franzia has been a silent leader for Delta 17 and has helped in broadening our mission and bringing them to a fulfillment. Some say that the most important thing that Captain Franzia has done for us has been supplying us with Jarhead wine. I'm sure that Captain Franzia has long memories of how seriously we took the occasion of a beer run in Nam. Now, you remember when there was a convoy coming out, we sent a squad and to escort it, keep it safe. The beer run, it was a platoon. Beyond this, Captain Franzia has made himself available in assisting other Marines in obtaining long overdue medals for occasions, for actions that were taken in Vietnam, during the Vietnam War, for those that he had direct knowledge of. This is a very special, time-consuming, and lengthy task. But that's the kind of officer he was and the gentleman he is today. And so tonight I would like to honor Captain Franzia with the Marine for all that he has done for the organization.
Get some.
Thank you for this. I'm humbled by it. I'm appreciative for it. And that my recollection of Vietnam was my first encounter with First Sergeant Carmen and Gunnery Sergeant Smith. When I met him for the first time, they gave me an entrenching tool. They told me to get all my manuals from OCS. They told me to dig a hole, take all the manuals and throw them in there, bury them, and everything they said to do for sergeant and gunnery, and they said I would survive. And that's exactly what happened. So really it's the appreciation for those that were there under my command, and it's a reflection that 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, and I was only 22, But the one story I want to tell is about Mr. Manipole. The Red Cross calls me up and there's a young Marine in your outfit that their parents are very upset that he hasn't written a letter home. So I called him up, First Sergeant called him up, and he has to write a letter home. So I sat him down. I said, "You're going to write a letter." He said, "I don't want to do it." He wrote the letter. I read it. First Sergeant read it. And we put it in an envelope. And he said, "I'll mail it." I said, "Oh, no, you're not." I had the stamp. I put it on there. He and I walked it down to the post office and we mailed it. True story. At least his parents got one letter, and I don't think he'd get another letter for the entire time he was there. Again, thank you for this honor. I really appreciate it.
Our next award tonight goes to Ron Vess. Getting up and functioning on a website was an early and important task for us. We needed a place to call our home. Much of what we have in our website today was inspired by Ron Vess, who put the site up for us years ago. He has been helpful in making suggestions on laying out our current website. For anyone who has built a website, you got to know how time-consuming and what an effort it needs to make that something like that work. Ron help didn't end with that. Over the years, he has given generously to help fund our organization. He has taken upon himself to make arrangements for events at our reunions that otherwise would not have been available. His attention to detail, combined with his business sense, has been a key in making the website we call home today. He has also provided leadership outside the board in many areas that contributed to the success of this organization. Some, not including myself, believe he's at the very best when he's had a few jarhead glasses of wine. So, I'd like to take this time to recognize Ron Vess with the Marine for all that he has done for this organization.
Thanks, Tim. Look, you know, Tim says I met my best friend. I've had a few jarheads. I'm at my best right now. So. Look, it has been it's a labor of love for me. I don't know about, I'm sure all of you have come. But I lived without knowing about you guys for 40 years. When I did find out about you, it was through George. George, I actually got on to George through Steve Kopechny. I don't know if you guys remember Steve, but excuse me, ladies, but I won't say it. But if you know Steve, Steve is an amazing character. And anyway, George came along and I don't know if you guys know, but I do programming professionally as a business. So putting together a website was something that we thought would be good, and so I just went ahead and did it, and it's still running. Tim's asked me about it a couple of times. We'll keep that up because Google likes it. It gets really good ratings if people are searching for it. The other thing too that George and I did really early was doing the first coin, and that's my most proud achievement is we started out with a Delta 17 coin. And every time I hold it in my hand, it just gives me a special feeling to know that, these things are lost us all. Anyway, thank you very much for the honor. I really appreciate it, and I love what I do.
Our last award today goes to George Bolander. When Delta 17 Marines was born, the first order of business was to determine how we were going to fund it. Sure, we could have annual donation drives, but would that be enough to accomplish our mission's goals? George Bolander had the insight to see how branding of our merchandise made sense and we could sell this. How effective the pricing of them, and more importantly, the numbers to purchase. This is not easy stuff. Believe me when I say George had on more than one occasion pointed out that I could never make a living at sales. Co-branding women's apparel was suicide. And then there was the travel mugs. Now, over to the store behind us, I was pushing the travel mugs. I mean, I was really pushing these travel mugs to the board. Now, George had some real reservations about the idea and offered up some very convincing arguments against it, thus forcing me to tell the real truth on why I wanted the travel mugs. You see, since I moved to Florida 3 years ago, I've managed to spill my Jack Daniels and Diet Coke on every carpet in the house.
Yes, sir.
So, it was therefore decreed that forevermore, I'd have to put it in something that had a lid on it. And the only thing that met that criteria was a SpongeBob sippy cup. So, for the love of God, buy as many of those mugs as you can. Call George up every day and order another one. I'm begging you. George will be sorely missed on the board. You have been a voice of reason.
Hoorah!
In guiding us, always there when we needed the help, and a true advocate for you, Marines, our brothers. And so therefore it is my honor tonight to present George Bolander with the Marine for all that he has done for this fine organization.
Yo! I gotta tell you, this seems like a little bit like the Academy Awards, you know? Yeah, but I got something special. I didn't get no Oscar. I got something really meaningful. You know what I mean? So, have you ever watched the Oscars? Yeah. Well, my wife Ronnie and I watch them, and she watches them more than I do, you know. But I like one part. I really like one part. I like the acceptance speeches. Are those things wacko, stupid, idiots? You know, they'll say anything off the wall they want to. Well, I have an acceptance speech tonight.
Good job.
Now, right now, my wife Ronnie is thinking, oh God, here we go again.
Good job.
What's he going to say tonight? Is he going to embarrass me? Well, I think it's going to be okay.
Get it.
Well, I think if I can get through this, if I can remember what I want to say, and if I don't get too teary, it's going to be okay, you know?
It's on film.
Now, the bad news, it's kind of long.
I think it runs about 4 minutes. The good news is it's not just about me in this speech, it's about you. It's all about you. So here goes. I have named this speech, It's Amazing. Okay? So what's amazing? Well, about 50 years ago, the government of the United States decided to send you and you and you and me to this little country called Vietnam. They didn't tell us anything about it. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't even know where it was. So we get out our maps and we try to find it. Oh, there it is, right there, you know. So then what's really amazing is the people who sent us there. That's the congressmen, you know, and the government officials. They said, you're going over there to help the South Vietnamese people have democracy. And how you're going to do that is you're going to fight these people called the VC, yeah, the Cong. And if you do that successfully, what's going to happen is you're going to keep communism out of Southeast Asia, you're going to keep it out of Cambodia, you're going to keep it out of Laos, you're going to keep it out of Burma, you're going to keep it out of India, you're going to keep it out of the Philippines, you know. And then something really, really amazing happened. They sent us to this unit called Delta Company. Now, I can't tell you what a blessing that was. Because the first thing that Delta did is they didn't feed us very good. and every day they used to give us this little box that had these little cans of food in it. You remember that, you know? And we'd open them up and we'd eat them and we'd eat them and we'd eat them. Oh, God, they were, you know, we'd do. But some guys would write home. Send the Tabasco sauce, send the chili pepper, you know, send, you know, the black pepper. And those guys were good. They make stuff like that, you know, like that, you know. So then they fed us really good. And then what's really is amazing is they said we could go out and walk in the country. and you know, what they didn't tell us was that in the summer, it was so hot and humid we couldn't breathe. And those packs on our back were cutting into us, you know. And then in the winter, it would rain. And it just wouldn't rain, it'd come down in sheets. And then the wind would blow. And you couldn't see where you were walking. You couldn't see the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
You know? So that was pretty amazing. But the good news was they said we could have free rides on helicopters. Now that's really amazing, let me tell you, because they never told you where you were going, and what we knew real fast when you got there wasn't good.
On LZ.
It wasn't good.
Keep going.
Good. Now here's what's really, really amazing. Here's what's really amazing. That was 50 years ago. That was 50 years ago. In 50 years now, we're here together. Amen. That's amazing.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Yeah.
It's just amazing. And here we are in Reno, you know, a beautiful facility, nice dinner, you know, and we meet each other, we shake hands, you know, we hug one another. And then what a lot of you ladies don't know is that this morning we had a memorial ceremony. I can't tell you how good that is, what it does for us. It's just amazing. It is. Now I want to tell you something that's really amazing just for me personally. Just for me personally. 6 years ago, I became the supply sergeant. Officer. Oh my, what a mistake that was. I became the supply officer, you know. And I got to tell you, that's a lot of grunt work. You know, so before the reunion, my wife and I, we pack everything up and we seal it. And we take the boxes out to the truck, and it's 110 degrees out there. And then I drive them down to the UPS place, and then they send them off. And then I worry, are they going to get there on time? Did they send them to Chicago or something like that? Then I get here, and I got to find the boxes. I got to get them up to the room. We got to unpack them, and it's just a labor of love. But I'm going to tell you what's amazing. Is I love to sell the merchandise. And what I like about that is I get to meet you, you know. And not only the Marines, but I get to meet the wives and the family, everything. It's just really special. You know, I really like that a lot. I have more friends now here tonight than I ever had in NAM. I don't think many people like me in NAM. I don't know. But anyway, you know, it's really special. So what is really special, too, is tonight I'm getting this award. You know, Delta Company and Pat and everybody, they're giving me the award. And like the rest of them, I'm proud, I'm happy, I feel blessed, you know, and I'm humbled by it. It's just a wonderful thing. And I want to thank Delta Board for doing this. I want to thank Pat, but I got to tell you just one last thing. Nothing's ever perfect. You know that, and I know that. And I have a little problem with tonight. And it's just a small problem. I don't think it would happen to Ron Vess or Doc. I don't think it bothers him. I know it wouldn't bother the captain, but it bothers me a little bit. I would have preferred that my presentation be made by Sophia Loren. I'm not done. Wait, hold on, guys. Tim, I want you to get this picture in your mind, and I want all of you out there to get this picture in your mind to help Tim, because Tim's Dan's a little slow sometimes. Okay, Sophia comes out, and she walks down the stage really slow. She really walks. You don't see moves like this on the grinder. And then when she gets up to me, she holds out her arms like this to give me a big hug. I mean, a really big hug. And then right here, this little spot on my cheek, she gives me this warm, tender, loving, wet little kiss. Now I'm going to tell you, Pat, Tim, if you could have pulled that off, if you could have done that for me, that'd have been really amazing.
I want to ask if I could ask the recipients tonight if they all could come up with their the Marines. We'd like to get one photo shot of all you together. I think would be nice. So could you all five come up here for just a second?
All right. All right. All right. Very good. Yeah.